I want to let future John know that when he's trying to edit this, so that pause meant nothing.
Right? Welcome, everybody. This is the Film Glutton, and this is Buffet, featuring Jurassic World, a retrospective review and discussion. Co-starring JB, a stand-up comedian, co-founder of Pat My Back Productions, and if you watch the Avengers Infinity War spoiler discussion I had with him, you know he's also my best friend on the other side of the country. So it's a coast-to-coast episode, everyone. Pretty much this is a precursor to Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. We had a very different views on the first film. Not totally different. I enjoyed it, but he enjoyed it a lot more than I did. So I thought it'd be really fun to revisit it, have a discussion about it, and dump this on the YouTubes before Fallen Kingdom gets out. So you can watch it before going to the movies, or maybe afterwards. If you caught it afterwards, it's okay. Stay tuned. Then we will do a follow-up where we actually watch Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom separately, and we will come together once again for a final spoiler-filled discussion of that film. But this one is just about Jurassic World. It is spoiler-filled in case you hadn't watched it, but it's on Redbox, whatever. It's you can rent it, so deal with it. Anyways, let's get to it. Well, welcome back, Jared Blake. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you. Yeah, no, good to be here. I'm glad that I'm not, flying down the road this time, and can relax in my office here and really discuss what is truly one of my, top 10 films of all time, probably.
Wow.
Yeah, let's talk.
Yeah, that's a good tease. I'm pulling up. I'm pulling up the Jurassic World IMDb page. So why don't you go in and start us off by telling us why exactly is this in your top 10?
I rewatched the movie about a week ago. We actually did a full Jurassic marathon, and so we watched from Jurassic Park all the way through to Jurassic World. We, lived through Jurassic Park 3. We laughed through Jurassic Park 2. I enjoy that one up until the point where they should have ended the movie on the island, essentially. And then we got to Jurassic World, and it's such a nice bookend, which, to tease our little part coming up on Jurassic World 2, makes me a little weary but still excited. But it's a nice bookend because Jurassic Park is just top 5. There's no debate about what's better. So and I think that's why you and I are still friends, is because we can both agree on that, and then so we can move on from there. But the Jurassic World, to me, the way I put it, even though I enjoyed 85-90% of Lost World, Jurassic World was the true follow-up film. I don't think anything in the dinosaur genre, and especially within the series, could ever touch Jurassic Park. It's just as close to a perfect film as you can get, I think.
Yeah.
But Jurassic World, for me, is the 2018 version. I was actually thinking about this earlier, how, being kids of the 80s and 90s, so to speak, anything from today, the nostalgia craze that's been going on and such, the things that get close, it's never that you go, wow, they've actually topped what I loved as a kid, what I loved in the 90s. But nothing today is better. It's all technically better effects, more money, more wow, but none of it's actually better than what we had before if it's trying to, recreate the same magic, because you just can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Jurassic World said we can't recreate the magic, but let's have some fun and touch upon what you used to love. And so I think it does it perfectly. The dinosaurs are centrally, they're the central part of the film, which I think with any of these movies is definitely key.
Uh-huh.
And, it's, there's moments you laugh, you jump. The end of Jurassic World, to me, when I was rewatching it, what really grabbed me is I could still picture myself that first time in the theater. I'm probably getting a little ahead if we're going to discuss the whole film, but I can still picture myself the first time in the theater when T-Rex is fighting Indominus Rex.
Yes.
And I love that because it was like, here's the quote-unquote natural. They're all unnatural, as Dr. Wu said. You know, none of it's ever been natural. But T-Rex is what God created. Indominus Rex was the 2018 version that's supposed to technically be better. And the battle there, and T-Rex is doing well, but, you know, Indominus just has all these tools. And then out jumps the frickin', I don't even know the name of it, but whatever the water dinosaur was, out of nowhere. And I mean, it was like a roller coaster ride for me that moment. I'm like, ah! It was just great.
Yeah.
It really was. And so, because I never saw it coming. And, you know, things like that Jurassic World had, that nothing except Jurassic Park had ever even come really close to.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's awesome.
It's just great.
Well, first off, I'm jealous that you rewatched, like, all 4 films. That's crazy. Because I really wanted to do that to have a fair comparison, because for backstory, the reason why I was so hard on Jurassic World, which we'll get to, I'm not that hard, but the reason why I'm so much harder than you is because Jurassic World, I agree, it's an utter masterpiece. We're in a full agreement there, and I do agree that it would be, that was...
You said Jurassic World's a masterpiece.
Oh, no! That's, and I already promised I wasn't going to edit this shit, so... Jurassic Park is a masterpiece.
The film glutton has decided. I mean, my argument won. Yeah.
But Jurassic Park holds the record. It held the record for a very long period of time until The Dark Knight. I saw Jurassic Park 8 times in the theater, which, if you put into perspective that I was like, I don't know, 13 or something like that when it came out, that's huge. I literally was like spending I was doing chores, doing whatever I could to get money just to go see this film again and again because I was so in love with it. I read the book, I was in love with the book. But anyways, it is essentially lightning in the bottle. I did want that lightning to be captured again. So that's where I was less forgiving, because I didn't need it to be 100%, but I needed to be somewhere in the ballpark. Now, so when I saw it, after that first time, I left it and I go, you know what? I had a great time. I felt like I got my money worth, like it wasn't a bad experience. I really enjoyed it, but it was just all right. It was worth the ticket. I think it says volumes about how I felt about that film because I didn't need to rush out and see that again. I saw it once, I enjoyed it for what it was, and that was it. So I literally, up until last week, I had not watched it again at all. I rewatched it again last week for this discussion, so I could kind of be like...
That was your first rewatch?
That was my very first rewatch of the film.
Oh my gosh, well, there's your issue right You've been missing out, clearly. I think it's the second rewatch is better than the first watch, the third rewatch. It just keeps going.
Yeah.
It's better with time. It's like wine.
Nice. Well, and I will say that I'm really glad I did because it made it fresher in my mind, but also I did enjoy it more. I could appreciate it because there was distance. I didn't say I want it to be Jurassic World. I know this would be a part of contention, but the biggest way I was able to separate it is the Jurassic Park franchise in its entirety became a dinosaur monster flick after the first one. The first one I love so much because I always compare it to, like, when I try to explain what made it so magical, the dinosaurs were beautiful, they looked realistic, and that was all awe-inspiring and everything, but what really got me was the flea circus. Mm-hmm. So when you had that scene where they're sitting there and he's talking about he's having the regret of what's happening, the whole park's already a mess, the kids are lost.
Oh yeah.
And he's just talking about all he ever wanted to do was entertain people. He created this flea circus when he was a kid, and it was like imaginary fleas, and then like, I don't know, whatever. It was like a mechanical device or whatever and he created this magical thing.
Yeah, Right. He
And
describes the whole park. And
yeah.
you know, we had the carousel.
Yeah.
And the kids go, "Oh, Mommy, I can see them. I can see the fleas. Can you see the fleas?" But it was all
yes.
mechanical.
That's it.
You know?
And the line that gets you is, this time he really wanted to create something real.
Right.
And that gets to the heart of what the film is. Of course, there's Ian Malcolm, my favorite character, about the whole, chaos theory, about you spent so much time questioning whether or not you could do it. You didn't think about whether or not you should do it. There's all that stuff too. But it's this big philosophical masterpiece that says something about us, that makes us think about us, that happens to have dinosaurs. After that, the franchise still has weight, and it still has morality, and it still has stories, except for Jurassic World 3, or Jurassic Park 3. There's no excuse for Jurassic Park 3. It just sucks. But
and it's funny because not only did they sacrifice story and all that, they also were like, you know what would put this movie over the top, though? Let's make it that we can talk to the raptors.
Yes!
Totally. Right, yeah, talking raptors is very realistic. We can barely, prove and or talk to dolphins that are supposed to be these smart creatures. 65-million-year-old raptors. We're going to figure it out in just a few months here, no problem.
Exactly. And they were obviously playing off the first one with the raptors opening the door, the fact that they adapt and everything, and they're so smart. She's a clever one, if I remember the line correctly from the first one. But
Clever girl.
Clever girl, that's it. Thank you. I swear I watch that movie a lot. And then, but they're just like, so where do we take that? Oh, we'll go there in Jurassic Park 3. No, screw it.
Conversation.
Yeah, that sucked.
Anyway,
that sucked.
You know what? But I'll put that out. The trailer dropped today, totally unrelated, but you got to bring up Dark Knight. My favorite movie series of all time is still Rocky. Creed 2 trailer dropped today. Go check it out. Looks great.
Oh, wow.
But in that one, there's one movie that just doesn't count, Rocky 5. So that's Jurassic Park 3. It never happened. Rocky 5 never happened.
Yeah.
It's okay. That's how we move on.
Yeah, I like that. I can deal with that. So, Lost World even had some redeeming qualities. I enjoyed it for what it was. I think, as you said the other day, quickly in a phone conversation, up until the T-Rex gets to San Diego.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly the way I felt. I actually really enjoyed it. It still didn't live up to the first one by any means. But it was then I was like having a hard time with the franchise, and by this one I'm just like, okay, I'm rewatching it. The whole thing is a monster film with some stuff to say. It's not the masterpiece of the first one, and that's how I was able to appreciate it more. But I can't put it in my top 10. I can appreciate it for what it is.
Sure.
And I will say, I'm just happen to be, because a little behind the curtain for the audience, the reason why I'm pulling up the IMDb is I'm trying to find some of the quotes, because when I was rewatching it, there was we'll get to that T-Rex scene that you were talking about earlier, because that's definitely the first time I watched it, what made it so great. That was a great sequence, and there was also one other sequence that made it great the first time. But this time, I was able to get a little bit more of the nuances. I got the toss back to, obviously the Jeep, the obvious throwbacks to the first one. But what I caught this time a little bit...
The 3D goggles.
Yeah.
Finds the 3D goggles. Yeah.
Yeah, but what I caught this time was Chris Pratt's character, when he actually reused... I'm going to try to think of it. He reused Ian Malcolm's line.
Ooh.
They retool it. And I'm trying to find it, because it's in my notes, but it was little things like that I didn't catch actually the first time I was watching it, and I go, you know what?
As a Jurassic World, fanboy, top
Do it.
10, is it where he says, I'm just wondering, is it where he's talking to her and he goes, these are animals, you don't own them, they gotta feed, they gotta hunt, they gotta, and then he says, oh, surely you can relate to one of them. Is that what you're talking about?
No.
Oh, okay. That's the same type thing.
Yeah, that's interesting. No, that's an interesting one. It was when they were first introduced to the raptors, and he was talking to the guy that wanted to militarize them.
Oh yes, Vincent D'Onofrio.
Yes.
Her name doesn't matter. What an actor.
Right? Oh, dude, so good. So I'll try to find it, but there's just a quick little thing. But since I did happen to pull up the quotes, there was one of my favorite sequences. Rewatching it was when we first saw, what's the dinosaur called? The created one, the man-made one. Indominus Rex. Yes, the Indominus Rex and Marsani. Is that the guy's name?
Yeah,
the owner.
The rich guy.
Yeah. Now I'll use this as a segue to talk about the other favorite part I had, but it's just when he's looking out the window and he goes, "It's white. You never told me it was white." Claire says, "Think it'll scare the kids?" He says, "The kids? This will give the parents nightmares."
Nightmares, yeah.
And that whole sequence is really great because then also when he doesn't even say, he just kind of points to the crack in the window and be like, "What's that?"
Yes, I was about to say it. Yep.
So, but that also goes with what's funny is I appreciated that scene even more in this one. That's definitely one of my favorite scenes. But walking away from there, I loved that character.
Sure.
And one of my,
I remember that being a huge disappointment. Go ahead.
Yeah, because that was one of my biggest beefs. Again, I've already announced it's a totally spoiler-filled discussion. Is he dies so soon in the helicopter, and he's the one that I literally Again, there's no character I wasn't interested in. It's just all the characters are kind of like, eh. It wasn't like the first one where every character I was like, oh, this is really unique. This is, every character was just kind of there. But he was the one that I was most interested in. He had the excitement that you wanted of being like, no, you should just, he's learning how he's flying the helicopter for the very first time before he crashes it.
Sure.
And he has just that kid excitement of saying you just kind of got to do stuff sometimes. And, he could tell he doesn't even want the co-pilot there. And that's just... all of his scenes, I absolutely adore all of them. I just wish he would have had more because he was resonating so well. And I think he encompassed that essence and the uniqueness that we had from the first one, where the rest of them were just kind of more bland characters to me. They didn't really stick out. Chris Pratt is a great actor, and he did a decent performance, but his character wasn't Ian Malcolm. He wasn't Grant. There was nothing in there that really, to me, and you can go on a different point or just rebut this directly, he wasn't super standoutish, even if you compare to him in the Guardians.
Yeah, but and there's lots of actors. Tom Hanks comes to mind, although he's done a lot. One of the things that makes Chris Pratt so great is that Chris Pratt is Chris Pratt in these situations. Because the thing with Chris Pratt is that he's equal parts, he can be the action guy, the run out there guy. Because Ian Malcolm, as cool as he is, he wasn't that guy, right? He ran away. He was a hero, but I'm saying he ran away from it kind of doing the dumb thing with the T-Rex and all that. What you just said actually made me realize what I love about Owen in this movie. His character is he's a little bit of Grant and he's a little bit of Ian wrapped up into one character.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
Second male lead. He's half and half, and he's like, I got the swagger, I got the charm, I got the Ian Malcolm, wit, and then I also have the smarts, and I know these animals, and I understand. And then he's Chris Pratt. I'm laid back. I'm not going to let things, you know what I mean? It's not worth these ulterior motives. Just live life. And that's Chris Pratt, and that's what makes him so great, I think. So,
mm-hmm.
I don't know. I love his character because, like I say, it's a little bit of everything, but in a believable way because Chris Pratt kind of hits you as that kind of guy. I'm a little bit of everything. I'm not any one thing, Right.
No, that's true. I don't know. Like I said, I wanted more uniqueness within the context of any of the characters. And, Owen's good. He's solid. Again, the performance is solid. The character's solid. Claire is solid. It just didn't have, Masrani is the only one that, like I said, that really stood out to me. I do remember, God, there was another scene with Masrani that, when he's talking to God, he's from the first one, the guy that was like creating the Indominus, Dr. Wu. Yeah. And he's like monster, like Masrani's like, you created a monster, and Dr. Wu's like, monster is a relative term.
Yes.
I'm gonna see if I can find that quote in here.
No, I got it. Monster
you got it?
Relative term to a canary. No, I got it.
Yes, that's it. Go. Keep going.
Monster's a relative term.
Yep.
To a canary, a cat is a monster. We're just used to being the cat.
See, that's what he said. That's a Jurassic Park line. That's genius.
Jurassic Park line. That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Yes. It's so good. It's so good.
Yes.
And the thing is, what I love about Jurassic World is that making the jokes I did earlier about, nostalgia and 90s and all that. And I was thinking about that. You proved why, because I know you and I have debated, not debated, but we've discussed at length what your record holder actually is, because when Jurassic Park has gone back to theaters, you've gone to see it again.
Yep.
So that has, still stayed up there. But anyways, the reason Dark Knight can't ever quite hit that same place as Jurassic Park is because 13-year-old film glutton was out there busting his butt, doing everything possible to get to that theater to watch it. By Dark Knight, you were, maybe going into debt, but you were just spending money you somehow had to watch the movie again and again at a ridiculous rate. And so it'll never hit that same thing. And, I hope I don't lose my train of thought here. Because with, Dr. Wu. Oh, God, I lost my spot.
Oh, no.
I totally lost it. What did we just say? You might have to snip this part.
You were talking back about. Okay, well, let me just say, just because you mentioned Dark Knight, maybe you'll recall this as I mentioned it. It's really funny because Dark Knight was so powerful that I literally was. I mean, I am the film glutton, but I was literally driving from Tucson to Phoenix, and I stopped halfway just to find a theater because I needed another fix to see that movie. I just found that interesting.
That's fair. And you know what? I understand that feeling because I literally paid multiple times to take 4 to 6 people to go see it because they had already seen, and we're talking Dark Knight, had already seen it, and I had to go see it again still while it was in theaters. So don't get me wrong. I wanted to make my 2018 versus 90s point, but which goes back to, the thing I love about Jurassic World
is
that rather than pander to the nostalgia, they hit upon it.
Yes.
They hit upon it in believable ways. The most pandering line doesn't, I don't know if it's because I love the Jurassic series so much or what, but the most pandering line is the year, whatever his name is, in that we don't have to learn it because he died. In the helicopter. And he says, when she says about, attendance is up, and he goes, no, how are things going? How are the people? Are they enjoying themselves? How are the animals? Are they happy? Blah, blah, blah. And she said about cost, and he goes, John Hammond gave me one lesson when he handed it. I never heard him talk about cost. He said, spare no expense, which is a iconic line from the first one.
Absolutely.
They used it one time perfectly in a conversation that it made perfect sense. And to your point, that's where we're first introduced to him. It really showed us who he was. He's so rich, and he doesn't care about being richer. Now he cares about these investments being worth investing in for his soul.
Yep. No. And that is...
So that's what I love. It's just they nostalgia perfect. They did that. You walk across the sign real quick, and then they use it to burn it up. Remember?
Yep.
The light that said when what do you call it? Walk here. It was just so well done. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's I want to fully agree with that point. They were a master about that. I didn't feel like at any point in time I was being pandered to as a fan, because that can get annoying if you are. If it's just like, hey, you remember Jurassic Park? That scene was perfect. Even when they used the Jurassic Park T-shirt. Where
it's a great one.
Yeah,
the whole scene.
Where the Claire's like, don't you think that's a little poor taste? You know, it
Oh
was.
yeah, it totally is. Yeah, I know. People died. It was really tragic.
Yeah. I'm so glad you know this film so well. It makes it so much nicer.
I'm glad I can help.
Yeah. No, that was it. And then so the reference you made, and then of course the sign, and then the other part. We'll get to just the since you were talking about it earlier. When we do finally get to see the T-Rex.
Yeah.
That is handled. You know what? Let me back up for 1 second. Because we should address one other aspect that I really did enjoy. Now, this is also parts where I didn't like about this, but the amusement park mockery.
Okay.
Which I did love that, and I loved it with the first time I watched it, and I loved it this time. The first,
you're talking just the way it was set up, and it was like an amusement park now.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Mockery is a poor choice of words there, but
No, you're good. No, you said it right.
But,
I just want to make sure because I have points about that too. So I'm totally into this part of the conversation.
Yeah. So the plus side about that is it's just like Jurassic Park, but modern day. It's like, okay, what do people expect now? We expect Disney World. We expect giant monorails. We expect downtown Disney. Or Disney Springs, whatever it's called now, which is
Jimmy Buffett.
Yeah. So and that's the other thing. I remember walking out there going, Jesus, I know there was product placement, but it was so well done because if they weren't paid for any of that, it still works in the film. Or if they were paid, it was just all like, I was like, oh, that's funny. I don't know.
That's what I wanted to. Oh, go ahead.
I don't know if they were actually paid by anybody. I only assume. I
don't know either.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I was going to say, because think about it. What's the most blatant, as close, and it's nowhere near it, but as close to Transformers-y, product placement? What's the most blatant one? It's when she meets with the executives to name or sponsor the Indominus Rex.
Yeah.
And she goes to talk to the guy in the Jurassic Park t-shirt, and he says so what happened with the meeting?
Verizon.
Goes, yeah, it looks like Verizon Wireless presents Indominus Rex. And what do? They make fun of it. He goes, that's awful. God, that's awful. Just let him name the animals. Come on. Just, that's so horrible. And it's like, yes. And that's what I love about this movie. Even the line, going back to a great quote, the Owen quote, where she says, it's been 20 years. Dinosaurs just don't do it for people anymore. They've seen it, just like Jurassic Park, which is why 2 and 3 also got worse. They've seen it. We had to make it better. It had to be wow. And he goes, they're dinosaurs. Wow enough.
Right.
Genius.
No, absolutely. That would be a fun thing to research just to see, because of course they had to get permission from these companies. So I would, like I said, I would assume Margarita's like, yeah, sure, use our name. Here's some money.
Wait, you know that, right? Or am I going to blow your mind Easter egg?
No, blow my mind.
Jimmy Buffett's in the movie.
Wait, what?
Do you remember the part where the pterodactyls are all sky bombing into the place, and the guy runs around the corner around Margaritaville carrying the 2 drinks in his hands?
Yeah. Oh, yeah!
Jimmy Buffett. That's Jimmy Buffett.
Oh, my God. Wow. That's awesome.
You're welcome.
That's so funny. Right I should have caught on that. I listened to that. I don't ever look at the guy, but I listen to him sometimes.
That's funny. And it's small. It's quick. You got to know it. I'm sure I read
but I definitely remember that scene because that's a funny sequence, him picking up the drinks.
Hilarious. And it's funnier knowing it's him because, of course, he would be carrying the margaritas. He's not going to sacrifice those.
Yeah, exactly. So getting back to the amusement park aspect of it, so that still worked with me. That resonated in the first time I watched it, the first viewing, and the second viewing. It worked really well, just like Jurassic Park. And it, like I said, it felt updated. Where it fell apart is, like, for instance, the ball. The ball drove me bananas. That when the kids are in the ball and they're going around, that was their replacement of the Jeep.
Okay.
Because here's the thing. The monorail was like probably more futuristic than we could actually do right now, right? There's a couple of things that maybe were just a bit out of our, like, exactly we could replicate. But the ball was like, yeah, no, that's not going to happen. That just removed me out of the film. That was a good example where this film was trying too hard, and I feel less would have been more. The first one was like, it's going to be a Jeep ride. Of course it is. You know? Or, well, it's actually a Jeep. But, like, and then this one, they're like, okay, how do we up it? Okay, let's make it a ball. And you're just like, yeah, but they wouldn't. And especially, oh my God, like, one of the times I really did I had to clench my fist was when they had control of the ball. Right? Okay, yeah. They could drive it. That was, I mean, it's one thing to be on a safari ride. Like, we know those exist. You can drive your car through it. So the Jeeps I could buy into it because that's something that essentially exists, and they would still have, like, the big gates, you know, like, it was automated still. But, you know, they still had the big old, it was still a zoo, if you will. This one, they could just gain control. And I'm like, that's just a ridiculous thing. Like, that wouldn't pass any safety feature, you know? Like,
Sure.
Disney would be shut down in 2 seconds if they're like, we're going to give you control of the Tower of Terror or Rock and Roller Coaster.
But they did give us both control of the tower. Never mind. That's a conversation for our past. But no. So I can take that one of two ways. First, I could say, as far as the believability of allowing them to, you know, control it and stuff like that. Remember, this is the world where, quote unquote, they have now developed they basically perfected in their minds the initial Jurassic Park idea. They have what John Hammond said he was going to do up until right at the end when he finally goes, okay, yeah, you're right, I'm not doing this. But remember, he starts to go, okay, yeah, we messed up. We need bigger, you know, deeper ditches and bigger gates and all this stuff. And they're like, what are you talking about? They essentially went, no, this literally is a gold mine. We're going to perfect that. They did bump it up. You're right. I didn't think of it, but they bumped it up probably, you know, 8 to 10 years into the future for that. I can also say on the flip side, though, and what I meant actually is, so, you know, the dinosaurs, they know which ones are truly safer to have out there and which ones aren't and stuff like that, if you want to go the more concrete version of that. I can also say, you're talking about how futuristic it is that they have these dome driving things that made for some awesome action sequences. In a movie about genetically engineered dinosaurs, you're like, okay. I mean, genetically engineered dinosaurs that they've been doing for 20 years or more in this universe, I can totally buy into. But these spheres that people can drive on their own that are supposed to be safe, I just don't buy it. There's no way.
No, that's funny.
Just putting that out there.
It's funny, but I hate to say it, but I feel like there's no way to make this sound good, but I actually feel like genetic dinosaurs are more realistic than those balls. I honestly, because
I feel like I always bring up a meme in our conversations. I did see a meme that said that. It said something where scientists believe they can recreate dinosaurs within the next 5 years. And something says, there are literally 4 movies that show you why this is a bad idea.
Yeah. But, like, I know they can't, because they have to have live DNA, which is why they chose the mosquito or whatever, but it's impossible now. But up until a year before that damn Dolly sheep, I was like, we'll never actually clone something, and then a sheep was cloned. So maybe that is what made me get to the point in time where, yeah, they can do dinosaurs, but I don't know. I will say that the one thing that I know that you said last time we had the conversation when it first came out was, and I want to give them credit, is how much, because I actually did knock on it because of this. So it's still a little bit of a negative point because I loved the darkness, the rain, I was scared in the first Jurassic Park.
Sure.
I was 13, but still, I was scared, or however old I was. But I generally got chills when you heard the boom, boom, the footsteps of the T-Rex. In this one, I was thrilled, but I was never scared. So that I am going to count that as a negative point. But I will give you a tip of the hat because you did talk about how. But you know what? They had the balls to do it in broad daylight, which was something different, and that was cool from a certain perspective. I just didn't get the same, like I said, I got thrilled, but just not scared at all.
Right. Thrilled, but no chills.
There you go. Thrilled, but no chills. Okay, so finally we'll move on to the great scene that we kind of hinted at was the introduction of the T-Rex. And that was done beautifully in this.
Oh, my gosh.
Right?
Yeah. No, it was. Yeah, it was just so... I don't know. Like I say, I think that's what it was. It felt like, even though it didn't make it like it was magically going to be more powerful than this scientifically engineered super monster they had created, it still paid homage to the idea that no matter what we do, we're never truly more powerful than nature. You know?
Yeah.
Like the natural is all powerful in the end. And just, I don't know, it was. And you know what's funny is because that's the thing in that first one is by the end of it, when the T-Rex essentially saves their lives with the raptors in Jurassic Park,
mm-hmm.
And kind of in this one too, right?
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
But when they did it, like you almost fell in love with the T-Rex. And unlike Lost World, as much as we did discuss liking that film, relatively speaking, in Lost World, other than the whole mother-child dynamic to it, they kind of moved on from... I didn't feel the love for the T-Rex ever in that film that I felt for Jurassic Park or that I felt in this one. When it showed up, even though it chased her down in her magic heels that she can run in, it did not lose my love. I was like, no, it's like the queen of Jurassic Park, essentially, you know?
Yeah. Well, and then that's
Jurassic World, if you will.
To your point, and this does really like evolve Jurassic Park in that context, in the same way that we're making fun of Jurassic Park 3, because of the raptors. This one evolved that concept of where raptors' intelligence can go in a proper way with the training. I think that was done in an interesting way that was, again, semi-realistic for a dinosaur movie. And then the T-Rex is the other thing. It was used, they're like, how do we bring this guy in? And it was just the gates opening and having it come out. I mean, I didn't get scared, but if anything got me close to chills, it was that. And I do like that sea dinosaur. That was cool because it was like, what do we add to this that's a little bit different? It was just a nice little accent.
Yeah, well, and what it was like you say, it was a twist.
Yeah.
You're so enthralled by the fight between the Indominus Rex and the T-Rex that your mind is only on that and what's going to happen and how it's going to end. And somehow, I guess just because of where it was, in the park relative to what we knew of the park, we didn't realize that there was any, and maybe they've been to the truth, but we didn't realize that there was any possibility of that popping up out of there. And so when it did, it just came out of total left field. You had no clue, and you're like, oh my God. And it was the perfect way to end that battle.
Right. Yeah. So then
after this call, I might have to watch it again.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to think if there's anything else. I gave it as much props as I possibly can. Like I said, rewatching it, I appreciate it for what it was. I don't dislike, I'm never going to be like, man, I got to watch this. But if I was over at your place, we're chilling, you're like, let's watch it. And I'm like, okay, I absolutely enjoyed it for what it was. And I could also see this being the follow-up, the better successor than the other films. The weaknesses are still there. I still think you just compare the kids. The kids to this one, to the first one. The first one, they were just far more entertaining and interesting. The main characters I felt were far more interesting and diverse in the first one. Um,
Sure.
uh, Claire was interesting, and I got what they were going for a little bit better with this one. She's the modern day person that's trapped in the corporate world that can't see past her own, briefcase. Um, but I just feel like it could. I don't know. If they would have had Masrani in it a lot more and just saved him for the end death, then I think I would have. This would have maybe broached somewhere close to the top 10. Give me that and give me one other character. So, if you don't mind, I'll use that to segue because there is one bias I have that makes me excited for Jurassic World. Well, anything else you want to say about Jurassic World real quick?
Well, okay, so we only barely touched on him. I was waiting for you to say, I thought you said you were giving me one other character.
Okay.
Vincent D'Onofrio's character, while being very, what's the word I'm looking for? Typical sounds weird, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, not that he was groundbreaking by any means, but because of who they got to play him, it was so well done. Because it didn't seem to have, it wasn't malice, it wasn't evil, it wasn't, you know what I mean? It was greed, but to a different kind of greed. It was like power greed, you know what I mean? And not the typical, I want to be the most important man in the world, but we are the rulers. We are in charge. I have to be the alpha. You know what I mean?
Right.
It was, I don't know. It was just so well done. And some of their, that scene right there, I think that's what I noticed in my rewatch was the scene with he and Owen when they're talking about it. And he goes, you come spend all this time around these animals and you don't learn anything about them and all that. And going back to your point where you want those deeper thoughts and conversations than just a monster film, than just a dinosaur monster movie. That character afforded those type of scenes too. And they're talking about that. And he had a point. Not that he was right, but there's at least a what's the word I'm looking for? There's a debatable, legitimate viewpoint that he's coming from, as opposed to your general, cliche bad guy that just, I want this because it'll make me rich and powerful,
Yeah.
So, just a little shout out to him. Okay. What did you want to do there?
Well, I'll just make one other point because, and this is also part of the bias that like time plus distance, made me appreciate Jurassic World more. It's still, again, we're still very different in how we view it, but it did make me appreciate it more. I know the other hard part I had, I wasn't just holding it up to Jurassic Park, which I was holding it up to one of my favorite films, Safety Not Guaranteed.
Okay, which I've actually not watched. We've talked it a lot.
Yeah, I've wanted to make you watch it for so long. It's one of Trevorrow's early work. Came out, I don't know, maybe 2010 or something like that. It was not too far before. It's probably what got him Jurassic World. And it's exactly what I wanted, because if you watch that one, it's still funny. It's still entertaining. It has all the things that you want from just a fun story, but it gives you all that good Jurassic Park really goodness where I really feel like I'm walking away fully satisfied in my gut. So I just want to put that out there because I know that was one of the things I held it. I kind of held it against it, like a bar I held it for before, and it's still.
You felt like you knew what he was capable of, and you were hoping for that.
I'm going to be honest with you. Like, again, it was solid, it was good, but I just feel like Trevorrow ultimately underperformed. When you go watch Safety Not Guaranteed, if anybody listening has not watched that one, please go watch it. And I think you maybe will understand my unique perspective on Jurassic World. Not a hater, not an absolute lover, But you talking about a character that wanted to weaponize the dinosaurs is a great way to go into what we think about Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom and what we expect. Because I'll go ahead and go first. And then
Please, yeah, I was going to ask you to.
Yeah, and we'll use this kind of a wrapping up point, but I really wanted to give you the last word on this point for sure, because we wouldn't talk about another phone conversation, so we could save it for here for this conversation. But just behind the curtains again, it's just like I actually think I might be a little more optimistic, even though Jurassic World still didn't get bumped up as far as it should have to put me in your ballpark. I did. Basically, what happened was I did like the trailer. The trailer did make me hesitant. Okay, first what got me excited was Ian Malcolm. Ian Malcolm is not just a great character, he's like one of my all-time favorite characters from any movie in Jurassic Park. Right. That's probably why I tolerated Lost World more than other people, because I so love his character, and maybe, and not just taking away all what I said about the characters from Jurassic World, just the fact that it didn't have Ian Malcolm. Well, this one has it. Literally. This one has Ian Malcolm, so I'm super excited about that. Now, when I saw the trailer, I became hesitant again, because I see him in that Supreme Court, whatever, in front of Congress, whoever he's in front of, and I go, oh shit, this is the only scene this dude's in.
Right,
and
to get him in there.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, they teased Ian Malcolm being in this so much that I am going to weep openly. Even if I love the film, I'm gonna weep openly if that's the only scene this dude's in.
Sure.
But
no, and we're in agreement there. We're in agreement there. I just want to pause and say that.
Yeah.
Where like if Jeff Goldblum is just so much perfection.
Yeah.
That I mean he's one of the few people that should be both Sir Jeff Goldblum as well as Dame Jeff Goldblum. And I don't mean that sexually. I just mean he just is all encompassing.
Yeah.
He comes above both, so if there's two, he should have them both. So anyways, and he is, the epitome of the great actor Jeff Goldblum in his role as Ian Malcolm. So yes, total agreement there, and they have to have him more, which will tease into mine. So anyways, going back to yours.
Yeah. No, that's okay. That's cool. Now, what makes me... So basically, I was super excited when I found out Ian Malcolm was there. I am a Trevorrow fan, so I was like, even though he's just producing this one, right? He's not directing it.
Yeah.
I was trying to find that to verify it just to give props. Whatever. Give props to the director of this one, this upcoming one. But I still want to give him room. But I'm losing my train of thought a little bit. That's all right. I'm going to get right back on track. That's what it was. The article. I knew if I just kept talking. I read an article.
You teased this to me earlier. You read an article.
Yeah, I read an article. Now, I can't even tell you. It was like while I was at work, I did the whole looking at my Google Pixel. I was going through the news, and I just happened to find this article where somebody interviewed him. So if I can find that same article, I'll do this, I'll post up the slide. So I'll give him credit that way. Sorry, I can't remember exactly where I heard it from. But that got me a little bit back on track to be a little more excited, because in a weird way, it lowered my expectations. And then that got me more excited because he talked about the trilogy concept he really wanted to do.
Okay.
He talked about how he really wanted to set it up in this one, or he set it up in the first one, and then this one was going to, he was like, he openly admitted there's a lot of stuff that he thinks people are not going to get that they want, because it sets up the third one.
Nice.
Now he doesn't make it sound like you're not going to get anything. He's like, there's just the story arc he wants to go. Anyways, it just made me appreciate the fact that there is something rewatching Jurassic World. I got the fact that he did want to say something. If this article made me say, okay, so he still has a point. They're not just making it because it made a lot of money. They are, but he has something to say. And I'm pretty sure he's going to actually take the time to come back for the third one. So all I need, and now also, in fairness, also, since my bar was lowered by Jurassic World 2, all I need to do is feel like I'm still getting something better than Lost World. I'm still getting something far better than Jurassic Park 3. And I'll probably walk away about the same as Jurassic World. Satisfied, and I'd be fine with that. I don't need to rush out and see this one again and again. I have the original one in my heart, and I still will rewatch that one. As long as I go, you know what? I have to see where this story goes. And that's what has me a little more intrigued and a little more curious.
Nice. Okay. So I'll start mine with an article that I didn't read. I go into like avoidance mode. Anything that looks like a review, anything that looks like anything, because I just don't want it to be spoiled for me. And with this movie coming out a couple weeks ago, almost already in Europe, or a week ago, or whatever it was, it's already made like, I think they said it's estimated to have already hit 500 million overseas by the time it opens over here.
Wow.
So to give you an idea, it's doing fine. But with that movie being over there, that's the rest of the world, and the internet is global. And so I know that if you're not careful, they're stuffing someone. So I avoided reading the article, but the headline on, I think it was Hollywood Reporter, basically was a little caption of Jurassic World, and it says something about dinosaurs star in, which, as I said earlier, is to me the secret to the movie. But to your point, you have to do it right, not just as monsters. They have to be the protagonists in a way, as much as they can be. Mm-hmm. But dinosaurs star in the wildly entertaining Jurassic World 2, or Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, I guess they did put the official title. But anyways, that gives me a little bit of hope, because critics generally are much more cynical than I ever am.
Yeah.
However, as you can tell from this whole conversation, Jurassic World has its own special place in my heart, just as a little subset to the Jurassic Park place in my heart.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that more than anything is my fear. It's just that I know my own level of love / expectation from a Jurassic film.
Yep.
Also, the fact that, as we keep touching on, Lost World to me is a really good movie. So to give you a funny story, when my wife and I, it's her favorite series of all time. It is her Rocky series that she loves, Jurassic. That's why we were able to easily rewatch the whole series to get ready for all this.
Oh, that's cool.
But when we watch Lost World, she will not, except for this time, so that I'd be prepared for this conversation, she won't let us watch past the point where they're on the plane and you quote unquote think it's all over before they obviously take the T-Rex over and everything. Yeah. Because at that point, it just gets so cheesy. It's not that it's bad, it's just so cheesy. And Jurassic Park never feels cheesy.
Right.
Jurassic Lost World almost never feels cheesy until that point. And I'll even jump back to say, I can see where the Lost World technically can have those cheesy moments, like in the gyrosphere or whatever that vehicle is called.
Yeah.
A little cheesy, little over the top, just to make some cool stuff. I get it.
Yeah.
Jurassic Park never does that. But once it goes over there, it's so cheesy. And that, to go back into Lost World, Fallen Kingdom, is my fear. I just don't know if they're going to find a way to obviously be bringing the dinosaurs over, as we've seen in the trailers, and not make it cheesy. Are you going to be able to keep me enthralled and believing and interested? And to your point, maybe I know you kept talking about a trilogy, but I really hadn't heard him discuss that at length the way you said this article did.
Yeah.
Maybe the fact that they have that point, whereas Lost World really didn't have that, that was okay, we have a great book we can still work off of, / we made a shit ton of money on Jurassic Park, let's make another.
Yeah.
But this one has its own 3-arc story to it. Hopefully, even once they're in the rest of the world, it still is going to be enthralling and such a strong story. But my fear is that it may not. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just trying to talk myself into going in with hesitation, because I am so built up on my love
that's
for
good.
Lost World.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to overstep my expectations, but
because you could have a similar. If your expectations were too high, you could have a similar experience as what I had with Jurassic World via comparison to Jurassic Park.
Exactly.
And I will say, like, so the other thing, the reason why I used your point with Vincent D'Onofrio as a kind of like the segue, Hoskins was the guy's name, by the way. I just happened to see it. So
Okay, there we go.
But because he was big into the weaponized dinosaurs, they are pursuing that route, is what it seems like by that article, and that was part of the things I think he was teasing. So that makes me hesitant because he did to give a tip of the hat to Spielberg, where he said this. I know this is where Spielberg really wanted to go with in the future of their films, so he's able to do it in a different way. Now I have a little more faith, even though Spielberg did Jurassic Park, and I love Spielberg. I have a little more faith in Trevorrow's rendition. Only because we have a taste of it from Jurassic World, so I have something palatable. But I remember reading the articles so long ago, before they were doing Jurassic World, where they were talking about this weaponized dinosaurs, and they were literally talking about not just dinosaurs that are used as weapons, but they were actually talking about, I don't know, like putting weapons on them. Do you remember hearing
dinosaurs?
Yeah, like
it was going to be, and they were going to be crossed over with human DNA.
Yes,
it was going to be a human dino hybrid that carried guns, and it just sounded awful. It was
terrible.
I've never been more excited to not have a movie from a series I love made. I found out that was Spielberg's plan, and then they got scrapped. Thank God. And that's the other thing, is that once I realized that they're going with weaponized dinosaurs here, again, I got afraid, where I'm like, how far are they going to take it? But to your point, hopefully the outcry, it was small because not a lot of people heard about it, but the outcry from the people who did hear about the attempt to make that weaponized human dino / gun-toting DNA, creature, hopefully that outlasts, like you said, let Colin go, you know what? I can't do that. We got to do something a little more believable, less cheesy than that. And if they do, then it might work.
Yeah. And then, but just to give it a little taste of why I don't think it's going to be cheesy, is because also in that article, and again, it was really funny because my rule is I desperately try to avoid all reviews before going to see a movie, since I do my own review. So I had to try to get myself not to be tainted by anyone's opinion, just go watch it and then write my reviews. This is like one of the things I happened to read because it, wasn't a review. But they did tease like what they talked about when they were talking about the weaponized dinosaurs, addressing the fact that they're going to have it. But they were talking about how in this film, one of the characters actually says like, animals have been weaponized like throughout the history of humanity. We weaponized elephants, we weaponized horses. Weaponized like rats in World War I or something like that. It sounds like really well the way it's and it's like, so why wouldn't we do it with dinosaurs? And that's the practical, like directly relatable to our world type of thing that I want. So I was like, even there during Jurassic World when they were doing that, I was kind of like, well, it's interesting with the weaponized dino. I still wasn't sold. But then when I heard that line, I go, you know what? I want to give this a shot. I want to see where this goes. I'm pumped. I'm a little excited.
Nice. That's awesome. Well, like I say, I'm hopeful that we'll both walk away satisfied to some degree. It'd be really funny if you enjoy this one more than I am.
Right.
Our disparity on Jurassic World is funny.
Well, hopefully we can come together on Jurassic World 3, whatever that is.
Hopefully we're all still here 3 to 5 years from now when they get that one.
All right, well, I think that's good. We have our expectations down. I did tease that we will do a follow-up. I'm not guaranteeing anybody when we're going to do that. We're got to line up our schedules, but we're both going to go watch it hopefully tomorrow, and then you're cool with meeting up again, via whatever this is, Google, and having another phone,
up again?
Right? And having another conversation, right?
We will Google again over.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me. It was a lot of fun, and I just got another behind the curtains. I always love doing that because our pre-phone conversation a little bit. I was like, I literally slept for an hour last night because I'm always, working at night and everything. And I said, you need to do some heavy lifting on this one, and you really did. I really appreciate it. You brought your A game like you always do. It was a lot of fun. Thank you so much.
I enjoyed it, man. Thanks for having me. And since you rarely like to do it for yourself, I will do this. Please, everyone, like and share the Film Glutton. Great reviews, great, just great fun, good time. So thanks for having me. Thanks for letting me be a part of it.
All right. Thanks for joining us. And just remember to never turn down an upgrade. Have a good night, folks.